today's final session.
Oh.
I know. This is simply the Ask Us Anything. If you have questions, please let's form a line here. Just stop so we can hear you. I got dead ears. So yeah, form a line so we can hear you. Ask your question. We'll repeat it so everybody can hear, and then hopefully we'll give you an answer that'll work for you, even if we have to make it up.
Earlier you were saying that most books are a mash-up of different categories, and you said you have to find the best way to market that. I just want to know how you work out how it resonates with which readers.
Okay, the question was, most books are multiple genres. How do you find out which readers your book resonates with the best? Michael Anderle.
So the Criterion Gambit is actually a space opera. It was always designed to be a space opera, but I enjoyed vampires. So the question that I had, because I believe that characters matter, I wanted to put the character on the front of the book, and I felt I could actually, and the first part of it actually speaks more to the vampire side, so I chose paranormal. I understood that I needed to not confuse the reader. So the first person's up there, they've got a little bit of blood coming down her face, it's like vampire feeling. And what they do is they go through half the book before I introduce an alien, and they're like, motherfucker, I'm in sci-fi. And so anyway,
Who told you that they were vampires?
What?
Who told you that they liked it because they're vampires?
Well, when you pick up the book, I talk about everything you understood about vampires and werewolves is wrong. So very, very wrong. That's the first sentence of my blurb. So I'm telling the people I have a paranormal story. And I started out, and there's vampires, and there's a person who's a vampire waking up after many years. He only understands Windows 3.11. So there's kind of horror as well involved in all this. So I talk to that, and so I don't really take anything out of it until halfway when the person who's taking Bethany Ann to where he got changed into a vampire, and they end up in an alien spaceship. And so it's that at that point. But my belief when I wrote this was, if they're there at that point, they like the characters, and they're like, oh, damn you. And so when further down the series, book 7, book 8, we start going into space, you're along for the ride.
But how did you know? How did you know that it would resonate with paranormal as a space opera?
I didn't care. I mean, the question...
Great.
Because for better or for worse, I was 48 whenever I started this process, and I understood that I wanted to write a series because I was a massive whale reader. As a whale reader, I did not actually look at series until minimum 3 books, and if you had 5, you had my attention. And so I knew that I could finish 4 or 5 books in a weekend, a long weekend. I'm not that fast a reader. But I'm like, okay, what if this series does really well? Well, I'm going to have to stay with this series because it would annoy the shit out of me if someone would go off and do another series and then come back and play. Don't play with me. I'm a reader. So I'm like, all right, so I'm going to take this, what I like to do, and this, what I like to do, which was, I like military sci-fi, space opera battles, great. I like near-Earth stuff. And then I like stuff to be on Earth itself because I don't want to create a new world because I'm lazy. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to start in here. We're going to have these paranormal blah, 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 blah. And so we went on and did all of that. And so I wrote to what I wanted, knowing that if fans liked it, I would have to write a lot of these. And if fans didn't, I'd come up with something else. I really didn't care at that point. I mean, I'm really happy that it happened to work on the first one. But I had plans to shut it down and keep moving forward. And so from that perspective, but 4 years plus later, I'm like, maybe I should start it as sci-fi as a cover. Let's just twist this and move it the other way since everybody's seen, tens of millions of times we've had ad impressions with Bethany Ann. Maybe it's time I just totally move it and see what happens. Holy shit, you have a vampire in my sci-fi.
And I'll say he learned that from J.K. Rowling. We did a quick analysis of her books about a month or 2 ago, and the Philosopher's Stone was in challenged children's category, children's who are challenged growing up. And I looked at that, I'm like, oh my God, because that was the main categories. It's like, now she's going after these categories, targeting these readers with the books now, as opposed to young adult witches and wizards kind of things, the urban fantasy. which was her genre. Another way is you're reading a book. What books do you like to read? And I would say don't get into a genre if you've never read any books in that genre. And if you do multiple genres, well, what do you like in this one genre that made you write these books that is enough that I would read this? If I read Heinlein, I'll read these other books. It's enough of an overlap. So that's another way you can target certain audiences. And if it doesn't work, target it again. Retarget. Like Michael said, hey, throw sci-fi covers on there and hit a whole new readership. Possibly. What do you have to lose? Cost of a cover. Well, when you've got an infrastructure like Michael has built for his company, you can get covers fairly quickly to try new things. So find those readers, find other readers. Let's get those subsets. Let's target in and bring them on board. Sharon.
So with my fantasy series, I released 2 books to start with, and I had a big gap between 1 and 2, and I had no read-through. So I thought maybe there was something wrong with the first book. I pulled them off, I'm rewriting them, I'm rebranding them, and giving them appropriate covers, because I missed on the covers. And I want to know, if I do a rapid release, what's my best chance of getting visibility? Is it to advertise on the first book when it releases? Or like, if I put 1, 2, 3, and 4 out within a certain time span, because my listed
How
book
big are the books?
60.
All right, so we have 2 60K books, but you don't have a number 3.
4.
We have 4. All right, typical release strategy that for rapid release would be 1, 7 days for 2, either 7 or 12 days for 3, maybe 14 if you pushed it, and then 21 days or something like that. And then you 28 days, 28 days, 28 days. That would be the typical one. But I haven't heard anything that tells me that you know that people are going to read 1 through 4 and that they like them all. That you pulled them based on sales. Could have been cover, could have been anything. Did you see reviews or anything that said?
I had 75 reviews
On book 1.
on book 1.
So that's really good.
Yeah, but there was like no read-through, and I had quite a few people saying that they were confused. There was backwards and forwards in timeline.
Oh my
and
God.
merge.
Yeah. We've learned. In fact, I still get it from collaborators. They go, I'm going to have this really cool setup where we're going to be like Batman, where we start here, and then we're going to go back over here. And then we're going to come do this. And I'm like, oh my God, don't. And you don't have to. They really don't like it. And so, in fact, one of my sons, he's like, I'm going to do this thing here. And I'm like, please, for the love of God, don't. And since I'm paying you, just don't. But that is one of those little tropes that fans really are not fond of that. They want a linear story. In fact, he had to rewrite a book in 2 days, 3 days.
I did that as well. I did some flashbacks and I had to rewrite the whole book in 2 days to meet my deadline. So what I would recommend is put books 2, 3, 4 in pre-order, publish book 1, start advertising book 1 before you even publish it. Even put book 1 on pre-order, and then load them up, hit the ads before 1 goes live with pre-orders, and then keep advertising book 1. Then 2 comes out, newsletter, get some shares. Book 3 comes out, maybe drop both 1's price to 99 cents, and then hit book 4. Book 3, and then like another month before book 4.
So 60, should I go $2.99 or $3.99?
I would. What's your normal price for your book?
I don't have one. It's not published yet.
What last time you had 75 reviews?
$3.99.
$3.99. Australian $3.99.
Yeah.
Yeah, make it more like $4.99. And then $4.99 publish, and then next one $4.99. Next one $4.99. Drop the first one to 99 cents, and keep advertised throughout the whole period. That's what I would try. Good luck.
Thank you.
This is a question mainly for Michael. I was really intrigued with your wide experiment that you told us all about at 50K.
The sets?
At Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the video was, I just thought it was awesome.
Thank you.
But yeah, I was just wondering if you had some early data on how it's gone.
A little bit. So
Could you restate the question?
yes. So the question is, did I have anything to speak about related to the wide experiment that we're doing with a series called Opus X? The background of that was there are individuals who cannot connect in Kindle Unlimited for whatever frickin' reason. In fact, we can't even figure it out sometimes. They just can't sell. And so they will go wide, and wide takes a certain effort. LNBPN in this year has tried to start taking people's backlists, and I started realizing, wait a minute, we have zero experience wide to speak of. So if the company is going to go wide, one, it's a minimum 9-month commitment. It's going to be cost. It's going to be all of these things. And if I want to mitigate the risk, then I need to do it to myself, because then because all the money can go back to me when I spend it all. The other one is it needs to be high, it needs to be professional. The third is we need to get relationships with Apple, with Kobo. We already had some relationships with Kobo, but we had none with Apple. And Draft to Digital helped us connect there. And then also, Publish Drive and all these other things. So it was like, okay, I'm going to commit the company to a 6-figure effort for 12 books over 18 months. Every 6 weeks we are releasing. And this is going to be top of the line costs. So, we hired models. We had an individual company, Gene Malika Studios, and then you saw the video they put in. So you're looking at something that's $40,000, $50,000. We had Hollywood stuff come in, so it's like, if we're gonna fuck up, it's gonna be one expensive mistake. And then we had other ones come in. So, but here's one thing, excluding Amazon, which we pissed off a lot of our fans because we've been KU for years. And we're like, this is not Kindle Unlimited, it's wide. And we created podcasts to explain why we're going wide. Guess who didn't listen to the podcasts?
The fans who needed to hear it.
And so so it's a challenge. It's a 1.5-year commitment minimum. It's actually about 21 months. Where it's at, we actually have better traction than I would have suspected. Both on, we've made a few $1,000s on Amazon, whereas typically that would have been at least 6 minimum in that time frame. And then each book would have increased it. Because they're 6 weeks apart, we've only released the second book. I'm editing book 4 now, talking about having to do stuff. I'm like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be editing today. And Apple said first book free. If you want to get any traction, they still suggest first book free. I'm like, well, first book free with no books other than one doesn't really make a lot of sense. So November 1, we put out book 1. 12/15-ish, we had book 2. So book 3 has to come out in January. So I'm not expecting to do much with it, mentally I'm not, until like March 15th. And then we'll drop 1 to 0, and then we'll be doing a shit ton of advertising. And for me, probably do about $5,000 in advertising a month for 4 to 5 months minimum, just to see if we can get that in. And during that time, I suspect that I'm gonna find out what goes wrong, because you pay attention when it's real money on the line. And so I'll be going, oh my God, this is not working. Who do we need to call? What do we need to do? But we're building up strategies in Instagram and Twitter, all related to this series. And spending the money related on the graphics, and if you ever check it out, just opusxseries.com, you're gonna see that it's all top of the line. And the goal is to make you, or basically see the same of what you would see in a movie. And so I find it interesting, but it's not top of mind. It's kind of like we worked a year plus to get to the release day, and then a week and a half later, we did 20Books Vegas. And I've been in a funk, which he kind of named for me yesterday. Once I came out of 20Books Vegas, I was just toast. And part of it was because we worked 2 years to drive such a hard year this year, and then we were on the road so damn much. And so I'm only right now coming out of it, and I'm editing book 4, but book 4 is not coming out until, what is that? Yeah, like March, mid-March sometime. And that's when my mind is thinking, okay, we're gonna really get down to brass tacks, and I still have another year to go. I mean, shit, we put out 20 books in the last month, and I've got to worry, it's weird for me to have to deal with this. And so I'm perhaps not dealing with it great, but it's just not focused right now. And coming into Christmas, I thought I'd rest in Cabo, so we were a week there, but you never stop. And so even there, I had 2 or 3 days of part-time work, and I was like, I don't really want to talk to people. Craig, whom I talk to a lot, I think we went 10 or 15 days And if I was in Las Vegas, well then I'd call them because I'd be in the car. I'm like, hey, motherfucker, pick up the phone. Beep. And so, but I would, what did I say between there? I'd call you and I'd go, are you live, man?
Yeah, he just wants to hear my voice. Oh, good. You're still alive.
Yeah, are you live? I guess it'd be weird if you're talking to me and you're not alive. Some esoteric talks at that point. But so internally, I feel like it's successful so far. But my bar wasn't very high because I know why it takes months and months and months to do. So I've got no great expectations. It's doing fantastic. Is that too much to explain?
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just as a note, that particular series will cost $150,000 minimum for us to put out. Yeah, 12 books, $150,000 would include artwork. So the plan is, if I totally flub it wide and we don't understand how to do it and we fail this, I'll put a turnaround and Kindle them to better give you my money back.
I've got a much lower key question. For someone totally starting out, who
Yes.
haven't actually written the book yet, maybe 10, 15%. If you were going to build readership from the start, through Facebook groups or whatever, what kind of size group would you be aiming to get?
Well, so the question, right, so if you're brand new, you're just writing your book, how can you create a readership before you have one?
Yeah, I'm working on a reader magnet now.
Right.
So once that's ready, then I'll group and then, how many numbers-wise, how many people?
A few hundred. I mean, to be fair, I bought my first 200 fans on the page because
Yeah, advertise a page.
yeah, I advertised the page because I knew, I was a sales and marketing consultant before I became a publisher or a writer and then publisher. And I knew that anyone goes to a page, they don't want to go to a page and go, oh, 3 people like the page. Not really sure about that. So I spent money to get a couple hundred fans and moving on. But one of the things that I find really compelling for anyone who's brand new and you want to build an email list, what also bots do you want? Buy their books, do a King Sumo, give those books away for people who like those books, and now you have a ready-made list of people who like the books that you want to advertise to. How about you?
That's one of the best ways. The most important thing you can do to get readers is give them something to read. And it's got to be your writing. And it's got to be the best sample of your writing. My reader magnet used to be just a throwaway story that I wrote, a humorous story, which isn't really representative of my style. So I trashed that 6 months ago, finally, and put in, hey, here's a very good story, short story, and I have since modified my funnel for readers. It's now 5 emails with 6 freebies, with 5 free short stories and 1 free audio. Because since BookFunnel does audio now, I had one of my short stories narrated. My usual narrator, I said, hey, can you do a 9,000 word, 12,000 word book? And he said, sure. So had that done, put it on BookFunnel, and now I have a separate audio list that's all people who wanted to listen to one of my stories, not a builder or anything like that. And that audio list has a north of a 50% open rate. So they've got to like your stuff. If you're just doing builders like a gift card giveaway, these are people who don't know about your stuff. You got to sell them on your style. And then those be worth their weight in gold. And make sure you parse them differently. Like if somebody signs up because they liked your short story, make sure you know that person.
What does parse mean?
If you're in MailChimp, you can tag it in a certain way that this person is an organic sign up, which I even use the term orgasmic sign up, and then tag that person that way. So they're different from anybody who just you do a quick builder, you do a blog takeover or something like that, and you just get folks, get the people who like your stories, and make sure you identify them because they are worth their weight in gold. Those are the people who will be your insider team. Those will be your proofreaders. Those will be the people who buy each book. Because my insider team still will buy my books, so they can, and they're all blocked from giving reviews on my books because I have them tagged in my story. Hey, thanks to these guys for reviewing it or for reading my book ahead of time and proofreading. So that's what I mean by parse, and that's write something the most important thing you can do for readers is give them something to read.
I got a quick question. How many people have at least 20 books done? Okay, how many of you are really aggressive on creating box sets? Okay, so last year, we undertook some stuff because one of our collaborators encouraged us. And at that time, we were making $8,000 a month in box sets. We made a very concerted effort to push it. And we get you with the emails that we did, but it's about $700 a box set. This month, I think I was talking with you yesterday, it's like $66,000 this month in box sets because of our backlist. So just to give you some idea, I mean, we could have done it 2 years ago. We could have been doing this, but we didn't. And because of that, we had situations where in the beginning of this year, we had some low months, but by God, those box sets helped save us a lot. Yeah, do you have a question?
Oh, I was just going to say, I do box sets by series, but then I also do box sets by trope. So I'm a romance writer, so I've just released...
Of course you are.
I've just released Billionaire Baby Daddies, which is secret baby romance trope. But it's just multiple bites of the cherry all the time, and rebranding them and putting them in front of different readers, different covers, to try to get different readers across to me.
Yeah, and I think that, the 2020 year of unfucking ourselves, we're going to trademark that son of a bitch. I do believe that we're going to go even heavier into because of our connection with Publish Drive, and of course they build Abacus, we have a lot of collaborators which can make some really challenging ways in order to pay. And because of Craig helping us, I mean, we were probably one of the fastest payers using spreadsheets, but not everyone has a Craig, because I have them. And I'm not letting you go, man.
What are your pricing strategies on your box sets?
So whatever happens on box sets, generally speaking, it goes like this. One, if you can use the word complete, use it. If you can't, figure out how you can use the word complete, because that seems to be the word that drives a lot of box sets. Yeah, it is a very magic word. Then what we do is, and I'm not the one doing it, so I'm going to give you the higher level. We have about 15, I think, email location newsletters, and we do them over this 5 to 7 day release. They're 99 cents, and we're trying to drive sales smaller, bigger, really big at 5 to 6 days. And so from that, at the point what goes on, the 99 cent is merely there to get ranking, and then the KU is where we're making our money. And we have had some of our box sets go 10, 15, 20,000 a month. Some of them have stayed 6,000+ for months and months. You can never tell which ones are going to do it. And some of them barely get their money back. And it costs us anywhere from $700, occasionally $1,200 a book to do this. But we've seen such success that I know eventually I'm getting that money back, And then how many of you would consider yourself more publishers? And then, yeah, you can still be, but so we have one, then we have one. Okay. Talk to you later. But, from there are some different things. If you're a publisher, look at Abacus with Publish Drive, and I think you might find something, because it's the only company who will accept your Kindle Unlimited reports and then help you break out who gets paid what. And they did that because they were pushing it. They were pushing their services on me last year in London, and I thought, man, I'm really excited. This is fantastic. What do you do for KU? And they're like, we don't do anything for KU. I'm like, well, we're done, unless you want to work with us, and we'll figure out how to make that happen. So.
I just want to ask, in the traditional world, you're really discouraged from writing in multiple categories or genres.
Mm-hmm.
So I write contemporary historical romance, women's fiction, have an idea for a thriller. In your experience with the people you work with, how many of them choose different pen names for different categories? And in the world of indie publishing, does it matter? Are you reinventing the wheel? Do you need to rebrand? Or is it okay to have lots of books under one umbrella, do you think?
The only time I would have so the question, if you're going to have multiple genres, do you need to do multiple pen names? Do you need to do one pen name? The only time that I've encountered a problem where I think the person did it right was erotica. They had a more erotica version, and then they had a cleaner version. That's the only one I would really say, okay, this is probably the one you don't want to mess up. Other than that, the general consensus has been readers can tell from the cover which one it is. And if you're very open with it, and one of the biggest ones that does this is James Patterson. James Patterson, in fact, I was just watching his masterclass on the flight over, And he talked about that. And he said, he goes, people are going to recognize what's going on and what I'm teaching because I write stories where you want to turn the page. And then they can decide whether or not they want to read that particular type of story. I'm going to give them one that turns the page. And so my personal belief is, I'm all over the place. My name's everywhere, right? If you do pen names, and there are a few of individuals that I know that are doing 50, 60,000 a month, and they do multiple pen names, just recognize how much extra freaking work that's going to be. So long as you're willing to do it, fantastic. I suggest if you have VAs, let them do it. But me personally, that's just too much damn work. So as a percentage, I would say at least a third of the people I know actually do multiple pen names. Now we have learned a few things. We typically, in the beginning, we would do Craig Martelle, Michael Anderle, or Craig Martelle, Michael Anderle. He wrote the book. He gets first crack, either above or to the left. Names are the same size. That was the way we did it. And then I started noticing there's a hesitation with multiple named books. And so Martha Carr and I, who had done quite a few books, created Judith Barron's. Judith after my wife, and then Barron's, I have no idea where we came up with that one. And so we actually built Judith Barron's because fans could see just one name. And I have no idea what the psychology is behind this, but it seemed to have some value. And Martha has mentioned before, it's really funny because she'll talk to people and they have no idea that she's Judith Barron's. And so they're like, blah, 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 you, and what about this? And she's like, yeah, so when I did the Judith Barron's, wait, what? You're Judith Barron's? Like, yeah. And so, we did that. And so that's as close to a pen name that we did. We just don't hide the fact that we're behind it because we'll do Judith Barron's on the front cover. Inside, it'll include her name and mine. And as attached, it's her name and mine. The challenge is that, of course, we don't get KU bonuses because we bifurcated our KE and P pages doing it that way.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Going back to box sets. I think Craig in a post in the group talked about when to drop the box set and not necessarily waiting too long after the last book or something. I'm concerned I can't find the post, and I just wanted to implement.
Yeah, we don't necessarily agree on this, but
I'm a big fan of waiting a while for before the box set, and because I want to maximize the individual book sales, because I push those first. And what I found on my box sets, and it's very flattering, is people will KU the books, and when I put it in a box set, they're like, great, I bought your box set because I want to keep it. And if you put it for 99 cents, now I'm not getting KU page reads on these box sets. And I had a couple that were what I considered spectacular failures. Made a couple $1,000s. Hey, that's cool. We spent maybe $500 on ads. You could say that's good. But it also took some individual book sales away. Not that many. There's not that much overlap between box set readers and individual book readers, especially as you're doing the series. So I think you want to have some time frame. You don't want to write that last book. We wrote book 6, which was the last book of the Super Dreadnought series, and published that on November 6th. And December 15th, I believe, we published the books 1 to 6 complete box set. And complete. And now that series is making some good money. Book 6 had decent sales, but it was a 6-book in a series, and it had been 6 months since book 5. The box set now is a whole different marketing campaign, and we dropped it on sale. I'm a big fan of only $2.99, not 99 cents for box sets, because I want to get that 70% of if somebody is going to buy it and say, hey, I really want to buy your book, great, buy it for $2.99. I mean, it's the 6 books is 6 months worth of work or more. And not that you should price your books based on how long it takes you to write them, but to me, it's like I don't want to sell it for 99 cents, especially when more people were buying it than borrowing it in KU. So I wasn't getting the page reads, and the sales were less than spectacular. Numbers were good, but the actual revenue was less than spectacular. I want spectacular. I want fabulous. I want wondrous, magical, all those good terms. And that's $2.99. It's that balance, because now if you have pensioners, $2.99 might be too much. And then now that'll drive them to KU for a reread. And I inform my fans, here's how I get paid. They all know. Kindle Unlimited, this is a new book. So if you want to reread the series, don't go back to the ones you had before and borrow them again. Just borrow the box set and reread that way. And they'll do that. And I said, this box set will earn me this much. You don't pay any extra. You paid $10 for your KU subscription. I have one box set that came out at 2,964 pages. And it was a complete series. 3,000 is the max you can get paid for. So it was almost max. I didn't leave any money on the table. People reread it, and I told them, I make about $13 if you reread this whole series in this box set as opposed to going back to the individual books and rereading them that way. Because I only get paid once. And this is a new set. And my readers are very gracious. Like, yes, I want to reread it. I'll just check out the new box set and do it that way. And that set has been very lucrative for 6 months. It is now on my personal backlist of stuff I've published as opposed to published with Michael. It is now my #1 biggest seller. And it's only been around for 6 months. The whole series has been around for 3 years. It's just finally I got around to publishing the box set and it's complete. And yeah, so maybe 6 months, maybe 3 months after that last book, but complete box set. You want magic? That's the magical word. Complete box set. He tells the whole story. We're going to publish the Terry Henry Walton Chronicles as a complete box set. And it's about 3,700 KENP. So we're going to donate 700 to Amazon so we can put complete box set, publish those 10 books, and hopefully hit gold.
And you disagree?
Now for the next version.
The complete version.
Yeah, the complete discussion, the both pros and cons. Related to box sets, the 99 cents, we've seen, obviously, LMBPN does a lot. We don't just do Craig's, but the authors help drive the specifications of what we're going to do. So if Craig doesn't want to do 99 cents, we're not doing 99 cents. And I'll curse behind the scenes. God damn it. But one of the things that we did recently, so back in the summer, up at a certain tier, everybody is talking about doing Amazon ads and doing like the $45,000 a month ad spend because it's a concierge service that Amazon has. And for better or for worse, we were in the middle of doing that. We were 2 days away from signing everything, and they objected to the brand new cover that we had done. And I'm like, well, I'm not going back to the cover that I've already had 50 million ad impressions on, so I guess we're not doing this. And so we didn't, but I decided I was already going to plan to spend the $45,000. And so we put the $45,000 over July, August, and September. And some things that I noticed, because I was getting feedback from like Mark Dawson and Shane Silvers and everything, that people that were doing this. And one thing that I noticed is as we slowly ramped up, and it took 2 to 3 weeks before I started seeing some money really coming back for spending, $500 a day or whatever on this. It took a little while. And this is on a series that has 21 books, 3 box sets of 7 each. And what I found out is those damn box sets were taking my money that I was expecting to get with books 1 through 21. And they were doing it in such a way that I had to start jacking the price up on the box sets to $20 a piece to get people to stop fucking buying the box sets. And still, 1 to 2 people a day would buy the box set. And I'm just like, at $19.99, which is the same income I make at $9.99, but I was trying to get them to go to the KU. So what ended up happening is the box sets were paying for my ads. And I was still making good money between 1 and 21, even though there's not as much overlap. So I have seriously considered, if I do this again, bringing down the box sets so that they're not even available, and then doing the ad spend to see if I can get that same read-through, because they do seem to be screwing things up. Now, going related to the 99 cent, $2.99, we have seen enough really effective ads and payments on box sets, including one series that we have that has, I'm thinking of Chris and Lee's, I think it's 6. Yeah, I think it's 6, and relatively long books. And so the box sets, generally 6 to 8, seem to work better. We've done 4s, they're mediocre, 3s, mediocre. So it does seem 6 to 8, and saying complete seems to be better. But they had a series which honestly did pretty freaking horrible. Related to it, I allowed some things to go on, and they took them all back. They reworked all the books, and they were doing okay. People were pretty happy with the rework, and then we did a box set, and then it hit. And all of a sudden, all of our financial worries about this series went away, and they were at 99 cents, and it was KU that was driving it. And it's the 99 cents, like we mentioned earlier, is getting us a good rank, which gives us good visibility, and then the KU is bringing us the money. And I believe this works very similarly in romance. It's very similar to what goes on there. And instead of us having 1 billion readers who read 500 books a day, we have fewer amount of individuals reading a lot more pages. So my personal thoughts, and why do I not? We had the same author who brought the concept to us a year and a half ago and was very successful with it and kept it and was going. She had already done it on her own box set and her personal, and we were doing a box set, a collaborative box set. And then at one point, we're still rocking and rolling, and she's like, okay, now raise the price. Move it to $2.99, and then we're gonna go to $3. As soon as she moved it to $2.99, we were pretty much dead inside 2 weeks. And so ever since then, Steve Campbell, our operations VP, and myself, we've been really hesitant going, don't fuck with the thing that works. And so I don't have as much issue leaving it at 99 cents as him.
We just started trying.
Yeah. You're welcome. Yes.
Michael, so you're talking about very low costs for quite a large number of books for readers to buy. Assuming that therefore that those increased sales of those box sets will then push your KU.
In that particular instance, right. But we, generally speaking, we're a $4.99 company.
Okay. Given an individual book could cost anywhere, $2.99, $4.99 or up, the value then they're getting, for 6 or 7 or however many books, that's huge. Is there a reason why not $9.99? Is it just no one buys them?
No.
At
So
that price, or?
what's going on is this is speculation. Let's clarify. This is complete speculation on my part. But using the Amazon algorithms, you have a person who's willing to buy your book and set it on their shelf to read later at 99 cents. They're not reading it at all. So honestly, you're getting 35 cents, Craig, for someone who's never reading your book. It's damn near free. I think the read-through rate of a free book is something like 2%. For every 1,000 people who download a free, you might get 20 people who read the book, and that's not even going to be immediately. So at 99 cents, they're accumulating things. And so out of, let's say, 100 people who buy at 99 cents, maybe you're 15, 20 people who read it, is a guess on my part. But you're using the rank. And so people, especially people who read a lot, they're looking at the top 100. Who's in the top 100? Who's in the top 100? And so they're seeing your book there for some amount of time. And the KU people are like, yeah, let me give it a shot. Well, KU, that's pretty much now. You only get 10. So you bring it in, maybe they hold it, maybe they start it right then. And if you capture them in that first one, well, there they go. Because KU people typically read faster, and you're going to see 40, 50, 80,000 page read days. So the most successful book we have in the company at the moment is regularly doing 150 to 180,000 page days right now for us. And so these other ones, it's typical. Even the ones who are, quote, doing crappy but are really big are still doing $150, $200 days. Yeah.
Can I ask then, so because obviously you have a huge audience base already, so someone else who is starting off with a box set, they're unlikely to see that huge jump in sales ranks.
No, that's not true. If you look, I see a person over here, you kind of know. Because really, it's going to be the same thing. You're going to play in the same area of 99 cents. I constantly see people who are making this work, and I've never heard them. So, the people who are looking for this, it's completely doable overall. In fact, one of our good friends is a publisher in the men's adventure westerns and area, and he hadn't been using this concept. And so we happened to get the same backlist from Chuck Dixon. If you know who he is, he's a very famous writer in comic books. I mean, He co-created the character Bane in Batman. And so he had a lot of books. And there was one series he had, which was a time travel series, which fit inside of LMVPN, and all of his other stuff fit over in this other gentleman's company. And so what we did is we simultaneously released box sets, and that showed him the power of doing that, and it made thousands and thousands of dollars on books that have been out forever. At the time that we took over the Chuck Dixon one, we put in a really good cover that mattered, and I think we were at $8,000 the next month or two for something that's been out for years, for someone that's relatively well known. So it's not that much anymore. So we'll probably try to kick it again and see what we can do.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Is that it? Are we done? Are we calling it? Calling it, man. Oh, good. Oh, here, I'll do it.
What's that? Photo?
We need a group photo, absolutely we do. And so let's gather up. We can fill the stage, fill in front of the stage, and thank you everyone. We can stop. This is 20 Books Adelaide. Thank you.
Woo!